Welcome, this is a guide for 333 Full Moon Harvester. I'll be assuming you know how full moon mechanics work. Without further ado, let's begin. In the recent patch, Mooncore Soul got massive rework that enabled 333 build. Green skill cooldown reduction during DLM, Vestige activating Destiny giving more cooldown reduction, much needed mana cost reduction, and large damage buff came in. Gluttony also got its push immune back from the Star Core. It is highly recommended that you have all three cores at least relic quality. If you don't already have these cores ready, I would recommend you run your existing build while you amass these cores as pity or drops. One of the most important buffs Soul Eater got is the Instant Vestige frame buff. Before the patch, using Instant Vestige animation locks you after casting. Due to this, the frame for Charged Vestige and Instant Vestige was about the same. There was zero reason to run Instant Vestige because Charged one did more damage with same frames. But now you can animation cancel the Instant Vestige with any other skills. This change enabled the most optimized 333 DPS cycle, the 2.5 DO cycle. I will showcase this cycle in the later part of the video. Dark Passive Resonance also got a flat 2% outgoing damage buff. Now it's nonsensical to run Soul Guide 5 Resonance 2. The build does not use any misery tripod. Compared to other full moon builds, not having extra damage taken debuff on yourself constantly warrants a shoutout. The optimized DPS cycle has no cooldown bottleneck, and other cycles wait at most 2 seconds. This is why you're here. The damage ceiling is way overtuned. It pumps out insane damage. It is highly expected to be nerfed post low on. However, a few percent nerf wouldn't break the build, since it gained power due to how core works with cooldown reduction. Let's get the most asked question out of the way. Does it really do 30% more damage than 503? The answer is yes and no. In Trixion setting, invent user named Dancing Ryan did DPS check with level 1 side dual weapon for 5 minutes, 10 runs. The results showed average DPS of 333 is 31% higher than that of 503. However, in raid settings, because full moon is restricted by gauge generation and need for DLM DPS window longer than 7 seconds, 503 gains edge because it can utilize short DPS window more efficiently. At the end of the day, 333 does more damage by the sheer output it pumps, just not 30% more. The build is highly CPM intensive with cycle variations and gauge management. Some players would like it, some won't. It's definitely not an unga bunga build. Due to high CPM nature of the build, you're constantly moving all over the place with Vestige. This is one of the most talked about issues with the build, and some people are sticking with 503 Night Edge build for this reason. 333 has very hard time keeping up 6 stacks when boss disappears because you don't have low cooldown skills to spam. Your counter skill Gluttony is one of your main DPS skills and usually reserved to be used in DLM. When you're not in DLM, a surprise counter pattern would decrease your DPS output. Unless, of course, you don't hit it. After weeks of testing and multiple DPS cycle adaptation, this is the most optimized evolution tree for 333 build. The aim is to have 100% to 105% crit rate because your number 1 damage skill Astaros has innate 20% crit rate. In the raid, Crit Synergy, Support Bracelet, Crit Orb is going to buff all other skills. Any missing crit less than 100 can be subsidized by taking Keen Sense and Master over Pulverize. Moreover, Master and Pulverize DPS output is neck and neck. This is usually a personal choice. You might be wondering why not run Unlimited Magic and MP Furnace for faster cooldown reduction if the build is CPM intensive. The staple DPS cycle 2.5 DO does not benefit at all from cooldown reduction from UM, so the better part of the UM becomes wasted. If you're sitting on overcrit due to Synergy and Bracelet, it is better to take Destruction Charger. People who cannot fathom taking BT, you can set up your tree with MP Furnace since the build is already stronger than the most without evolution optimization. Keep in mind you will be very mana hungry. One point in UM is recommended solely for mana reduction, but running with God support, you can change UN for DC. Standing Striker nerfs your damage too much compared to BT and MPF, not recommended. This is the base skill tree of the 333 build. This skill tree works without spec on Bracelet, being 1735 spec. Depending on your spec, you can take out blue wealth runes on Gluttony and Guillotine for other runes. When changing runes, note that 333 has little to no gain from running quick charge runes. Running Scaffold Tripod on Guillotine is also an option to consider, but Guillotine is not high on the damage contribution. It is more important that it generates more gauge and not to miss, so weak point Tripod is recommended. You can run either Instant Vestige Tripod. Rear Blast Tripod increases the gauge gen slightly. Most players opt for running Rear Blast. Also, there's a secret tech with the Rear Blast Vestige. I'll go into detail during the rotation section. If you really hate running Death Yard, you can change back to Lunatic Edge, but do note, by using Lunatic Edge, you cannot run 2.5 Dio Cycle. You will be forced to use 3 Dio Cycle. Your gauge gen will be that much worse with little room for mistakes. I recommend getting used to the Death Yard since both ceiling and floor are higher. This is damage distribution I got from Extreme Brawl Nightmare difficulty. The raid lasted more than 20 minutes and you know how Brawl really likes to stand still. I feel as this is more representative of the damage distribution for the raid than a simple Trixion test. Five damage and 6 cooldown gems are used for the build. Here's the gem priority visualized. Upgrade your gems until you have all level 8s. From there, you want to focus on upgrading damage gems first. The engravings are Grudge, Adrenaline, Keen Blunt, Curstall, and Raid Captain. You might be wondering how can you run Raid Captain without Lunatic Edge? During DLM, movement speed is maxed out due to 5% movement speed gain with the core. The most important thing to note is how you end your DLM is crucial for every 333 rotations. The Soul Core now gives flat 50% cooldown reduction for any green skill cast during DLM. Casting a green skill as you cast your 4th purple skill, that green skill will have DLM cooldown reduction applied at the same time ending DLM. That means the green skill cast after 4th purple skill get free 50% cooldown. 3 Dio Cycle uses this mechanic to cast Death Odor, which is the green skill that generates the most gauge for the half cooldown. If you spam every other skill except Vestige, Dio will come off cooldown exactly as you finish your last skill. Magic. Order of the skill cast is not important, but if you cast as they come off cooldown, you will be casting as shown in the video. Cast the second Death Order, cast Vestige back to back for instant cooldown reduction, cast third Death Order and Soul Drain. This will complete 100% gauge. Death Yard will be kept as a backup source of gauge generation. Let's go back to the DLM rotation. The basic idea for DLM rotation is cast Astaros and Gluttony first with cooldown reduction followed by Vestige for a total of 75 cooldown reduction. Cast Guillotine and RC as filler while waiting for Astaros and Gluttony cooldown to come off. Cast the second set of Gluttony and Astaros as they become available. Now the most important part. Carefully cast Vestige followed by Death Order for free cooldown reduction. Let's go to Trixion and see what it looks like in game. Now to the 2.5 DO rotation. The idea was the 3.0 rotation already has an excess amount of gauge generation. Can we turn this into a faster rotation? Since Vestige got frame buff, is it possible to cast Death Order while in DLM and get out of it before enough of damage ticks gets wasted? 2.5 DO rotation is the result of the idea. With Legendary Galewind on Vestige, it is possible to get more than half of Death Order ticks out of DLM while gaining 75% cooldown. Also, 50% free cooldown reduction is now on Soul Drain. The gauge generation rotation has the same idea of 3.0 DO rotation. Cast all green skill as they come off cooldown, cast double Vestige for 75% cooldown reduction, cast Guillotine and RC for that 2-second delay, cast Death Order, Soul Drain, and Death Yard to get 100% gauge. The rotation has 0 cooldown bottleneck and every skill is cast back to back to back. This is the most CPM intensive and fastest rotation for 333, and the result is the highest DPS output. The DLM rotation is same as 3.0 up until you cast second set of Astaros and Gluttony. The difference is now you cast Death Order, Vestige, and Soul Drain in quick succession. The result is at least 3 out of 6 ticks of Death Order hits out of DLM while getting 75% cooldown reduction. Soul Drain also gets 50% cooldown reduction. During the video, I mentioned Vestige Rear Blast Tripod Sacred Tech. By casting Vestige followed by Soul Drain, due to Soul Drain cast pointing being fast, makes Real Blast hits out of DLM, giving you small amount of gauge. Also, there's a 2.5 DO rotation with a spare Soul Drain. This rotation doesn't sacrifice much, only a few frames, but has Soul Drain backup coming off cooldown in 3 to 4 seconds. It's a bit more complicated than normal 2.5 DO rotation. It's not green, 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 purple, 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 green, green, green. But I think it's good to practice this rotation. These are two staple recovery DLM rotations. First rotation gets you back to 2.5 DO rotation without any bottleneck, but you're forfeiting a lot of damage. Second rotation loses least damage, but you're going into 3.0 DO cycle with longer cooldown on Astaros, since it only received 50% cooldown reduction. In my opinion, you should know both rotation by heart. In case you use both Astaros and Gluttony for gauge, use recovery 2 starting with double Vestige. If you only use Gluttony for gauge, this same rotation is normal, just not doing the first Gluttony. This is the fresh start rotation when you really effed up. Situation where boss disappeared while you're in DLM, giving you a big finger as your DLM slowly ticks away, leaving you with nothing. This is the gauge rotation to begin on you. Also note this is only possible if you're using Desiar's skill tree. Following this rotation, recovery DLM rotation 1 or 2 should be used. I want to give special thanks to 카페반에 for his role in testing and data analysis, 알데 삼형제 for his role in evolution optimization, 부패 물약 for his ridiculous amount of testing, 영태 오빠 for 2.5 DO rotation, and most of all, 춤추는 lion, the father of 503 Night Age, for his 3.0 DO rotation, which was the gateway for all 333 builds.